jobs, and finally put America first.
A gunman in Fresno, California, kills 3 in a shooting rampage.
39-year-old Corey Ali Mohammed sometimes called himself the Black Jesus.
As he was taken into custody, he yelled out, Ali Akbar.
We are heading for a runoff.
A Democrat, Jon Ossoff, failing to flip Georgia's 6th district and will now face Republican Karen Handel.
The manhunt for the Cleveland Facebook killer is over.
When the pit maneuver was conducted, the vehicle spun around, came to a stop, immediately he pulled the weapon out, and he shot himself.
But make no mistake, we are in fact a nation under attack from people who hate us, hate our freedoms, hate our laws, hate our values.
I don't think there's any doubt that the open border, the lawlessness that we've had is a factor.
Liftoff of the Atlas V rocket, extending the research legacy for living and working in space.
And I think it's gonna be a long, long time till touchdown brings me round again to find.
Thank you, Stage Man, directing us at Rocket Man. And live from Studio E, it's Ed Henry with us today.
I don't think it's going to be a long, long time. I like being with you guys. It goes fast.
We enjoy having you here. I like your outfit.
Thank you very
stars. Much. Very patriotic this morning.
Yeah, this is from Sete, which is a company. It's a former Bush aide in the Bush 43 White House.
Is that right?
Yeah, and so he makes cool ties. And this one, I think, was picked by President Bush 43.
Oh, really?
He has them Bush 41 and 43 design ties.
You are such a name.
Are they made in America?
I just thought of it when you said it.
Are they made in America? I hope so.
They are.
Okay, good. And
go.
you always look nice too, Steve.
Thank you very much, Ainsley. All right, listen, if you were watching the mainstream media yesterday, you knew that that special election down in Georgia's 6th district pretty much was the most important election of our lifetimes because the Democrats were desperate to essentially have a referendum on Donald Trump, and they wanted the guy, screen left, Jon Ossoff, the 30-year-old documentary filmmaker. They wanted him to win, and they pumped millions and millions of dollars into it. Yeah, he had to hit 50%. He fell a little short, and so now we're run off with that woman right there.
He was excited. He said it was a victory for the ages. Well, it wasn't a victory because he hasn't won. Let's listen in.
There is no doubt that this is already a victory for the ages. That no matter what the outcome is tonight, whether we take it all or whether we fight on, we have defied the odds. We have shattered expectations.
So he ran, not on policy, but on the fact that he wanted, it was a referendum on President Trump. He wants to run against President Trump's policies. Right. And that's what he kept saying. So all these Hollywood elites heard about this. They all donated money. 97% of the money that he raised came from outside of that area. It is a Republican district.
This is all about democracy and fighting for this district. And it's super interesting because he's saying it's a victory for the ages. Which ages?
He's only 30.
He can't even vote for himself because he lives outside of the district that he's running for.
Yeah, how crazy was that? We found out yesterday that he could not vote for himself because he didn't live in his district.
Well, you know, it's funny also, the media has been framing this as this is a big blow to Donald Trump because Tom Price, his Health and Human Services Secretary, carried this district last time by, I think, 23 points. Sure. What they don't mention is Donald Trump won this district, I believe, by 1 point. It was much closer.
And what they don't mention,
closely divided.
And what they don't mention, there were 11 candidates running for the Republican Party.
Right.
So now in the runoff on January 20th, what will happen is you'll have one Democrat, it'll be him, and then you're going to have one Republican, and so they'll go head-to-head. It is a Republican district, so we'll have to see who wins.
Absolutely.
And it follows all the predictions that Donald Trump was going to lose the Kansas special election as well.
They're desperate for that narrative to take off. Look, people, the mainstream media wants you to say, oh, Donald Trump, he won the election. Of course, that was because the Russians hacked and stuff like that. And then one by one, we're looking at these elections, and they're close, but nonetheless, they have not picked off the Republican. President Trump himself actually did some 11th hour tweeting in a major way and helped with the counterattack yesterday, keep him under 50%. He tweeted shortly before midnight last night, despite major outside money, about $8 million, fake media support, and 11 Republican candidates. Big R win with runoff in Georgia. Glad to be of help. How funny is that? That Karen Handel, will win by 8 points.
Right. We'll have her on live, 8 a.m. Eastern hour. She's going to be our guest, you know, and I think it's important to kind of get a look at the road ahead, because the next few weeks are going to be intense. Because when you talked about that outside money flowing in, over $8 million to the Democrat, you're going to see Hollywood say, hey, we've got a shot here. Even more money is going to pour in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good speaker. It's impressive that he's 30 years old and he's doing this. We'll have to see who wins. We're going to interview the Republican in the race. We did ask him to come on the show. We've asked him to come on the show, and he hasn't responded or has declined. So if you're listening, if you're watching, we'd love to have you.
Absolutely. Why not? Meanwhile, I'll tell you the big winner, though, going forward, will be the Atlanta television stations, because millions and millions of dollars worth of ads.
This is true. Yeah.
So what does Hillary Clinton's official former spokesperson think about last night's race? Well, Brian Fallon tweeted this. Even if he doesn't hit 50 tonight, Ossoff is showing us the path to retaking the House. It runs through the Panera Breads of America. What does that mean? Does it mean through the people who love tomato soup in a loaf of bread?
No, I think he's trying to do the Trump thing where he's saying, I'm not, what is the phrase? I'm not Washington, I'm Main Street. You know, I'm down home. Yeah. I'm of the people.
The suburbs.
Trying to reach out to those exurbs, maybe even, you know, and, you know, the Walmart moms, the Walmart dads, Panera dads now, I guess would be the term.
They do have one heck of a salad and many choices.
On Twitter, somebody wrote, we shall fight, after he said the road to victory goes through Panera, somebody on Twitter said, we shall fight them in the Pottery Barn. We shall fight them in the Banana Republic. We shall fight them in the Starbucks. And so it goes.
That is great. Well, you know, the president was out talking about the economy while all this was playing out and fulfilling a campaign promise about Buy American, Hire American. Here he was in Wisconsin.
I'm proud to announce that we are about to take bold new steps to follow through on my pledge to buy American and hire American. Together, we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that more products are stamped with those wonderful words, made in the USA. For too long, we've watched as our factories have been closed and our jobs have been sent to other faraway lands. But this election, the American people voted to end the theft of American prosperity. They voted to bring back their jobs and to bring back their dreams into our country. With this action, we are sending a powerful signal to the world. We're going to defend our workers, protect our jobs, and finally, put America first.
That's great. Essentially, some of the things, and we went over it yesterday when we were talking about it, President Trump wants to change the rules distributing the visas to foreign workers, because right now it is a lottery system where everybody gets equal chance to get one of these visas. He would like to see the people who are at the higher end of the earning structure get the visas, because a lot of them are outsourced to people in India. They wind up coming over and not making as much. Also, there's going to be a 150-day review where federal agencies look to make sure that there aren't any loopholes that are keeping them from buying American stuff.
And that's the message to help win the race, to help win the presidential race. He's back on that in the key state of Wisconsin that helped put him over the top. When all this focus was back in Georgia in that one seat, that's really not going to matter mathematically. It's not going to tilt the balance of power.
So if the Democrats win in Georgia, it's not going to, the Democrats aren't going to take the House.
It's interesting because all the time and money spent there is because Democrats are desperate for a victory. That's why you have former Clinton aides weighing in. Think about what we had yesterday, where the DNC chair was being introduced at a big party event, and they were booing him, saying, we want Bernie, we want Bernie. This is a party that's desperate for a win anywhere. That's why they're focused so much on Georgia. President out in Wisconsin saying, let's talk about the economy.
Well, you mentioned Tom Perez, who runs the DNC right now. He's the chairman. He was saying while President Trump was in Kenosha, Wisconsin, he was saying, you know, he wants to buy American and hire Americans. Then why doesn't he practice what he preaches? Because his neckties are made in China and other clothing articles are made around the world. And so ABC sent Brian Ross, the investigative reporter, to a Trump hotel, and he made a shocking discovery. Watch this.
When I checked in right after the election, the room was full of non-American made products.
Here in the marble and gold bathroom, the soap is made in Canada. The towels are made in India. This fancy bathrobe, it's made in China.
They have Soap from Canada.
Discovered everything.
If you put a camera in any of our bathrooms or if in any of our houses, you're going to find stuff from other countries. But President Trump
My
is saying,
soap is from Costco.
But President Trump is saying, yeah, I would love for us to buy all of our soaps and our robes. We would all love to buy American-made, but the prices are much cheaper if you buy from other countries. And he's saying that's why it's important when it comes to tax reform to lower the corporate tax rate so that more companies can afford to make these things here in the U.S. When I was writing the children's book that I wrote, they came to me with it and it said, made in China. And I said, I really would love for the jobs to be here in America. And they said, Ainsley, it's going to be more expensive, so we're going to have to cut costs elsewhere. It was more expensive, and that's what needs to change. We need to lower corporate tax, but we did it. We made it work. But that's why companies are looking to China, looking to Canada, because it is cheaper. What businessman's going to go with the more expensive route?
So
unless
anyway,
they cut corners
you can
elsewhere.
get deals at Panera as well, as we mentioned. But our own Abby Huntsman, she likes to go to the diner. She takes these tours all around the country.
I do.
She sometimes goes
Yes,
to
I
Panera.
love Panera, though.
I do too. Isn't it so good?
They have the best cinnamon bagel with the hazelnut cream cheese.
So good.
Wait,
Now-
hazelnut cream cheese?
Yeah,
That
Panera.
changes everything.
I know.
But you know what? You have such an important story coming up with Congressman Mast down
Ryan
in Florida.
Mast, stick around at 6:20 a.m. and 8:20 a.m.
About
We're
his
gonna highlight
service.
story. It's incredible, Ains. I
Is
look
that-
forward to that. Good to
I
see you
can't
guys
wait to
this
see
morning.
it. Good morning.
I do want to start with a Fox News alert. In the U.S. Air Force taking swift action, intercepting Russian bombers off the coast of Alaska. The two foreign jets detected just 100 miles south of Kodiak Island, an international airspace. Well, Air Force jets flying beside the bombers as they changed course and flew away. This is the first interception of Russian aircraft off the West Coast in nearly 2 years. And now to another alert. Police say he screamed Allah Akbar after a murderous rampage through the streets of Fresno, California. But this morning, they are not calling it terrorism.
This is solely based on race, and it has nothing to do with terrorism, in spite of the statements that he made.
Corey Ali Muhammad, seen right there, admits to targeting and killing 3 white men in a 2-minute shooting spree. Well, social media posts now under investigation, like this one where he praises the, quote, cataclysmic natural disaster striking America, again saying Allah Akbar. And police are praising a drive-through delay at a McDonald's for ending a nationwide hunt for the Facebook killer. An employee recognizing Steve Stevens while ordering chicken nuggets in Erie, Pennsylvania. Workers then stalling him until police could get there, saying his fries were not ready yet.
Just told him it was going to be a minute for his fries, which it wasn't really. We were just trying to make sure she got in contact with the state police. And he didn't want to wait for the fries, which was fine. But he took his 6-piece and didn't want any money back and headed out.
And that might have saved lives. Police pulling out right behind Stevens' car just seconds later. Stevens, who filmed the execution of an innocent man, then taking his own life during the dramatic chase. Just glad that all came to an end. What a horrific story that was.
Quick thinking on the part of the McDonald's
Good for them,
employees.
right?
Who
Good for them.
I hope now we'll get to split that $50,000 reward.
Oh, yeah.
Good point, Steve.
It's great.
All right, Abby, thank you.
Thank you.
We told you about how the Democratic candidate came up short in the 6th District of Georgia. So what are the wider implications in the upcoming runoff race? Eric Erickson, who lives down in that neck of the woods, weighs in next.
Plus, he might have lost his legs on the battlefield, but he never lost his mission to serve our great country. We kick off our new series, A Call to Duty.
I remember, being engulfed in this cloud of dust, and I can remember, hearing in my radio device my men talking about me and, calling it.
Failed to flip the 6th congressional district, forcing a face-off against Republican Karen Handel. So what are some of the wider political implications? Founder of The Resurgent and Fox News contributor Eric Erickson joins us live now. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning.
You're down there in Georgia. What was happening on the ground when you have this Democratic candidate basically declaring victory, that it was a, quote-unquote, victory for the ages when he did not win?
Democrats always seem to claim moral victories when they lose. He didn't get to 50%, and it's going to be more difficult in June. There are some warning signs for Republicans. Don't get me wrong. The Democrats were very enthusiastic. He outperformed Hillary Clinton in key areas of the district. He won several Republican precincts outright. But people forget this was a special election. There were real different dynamics. You had 11 very well-known Republicans fighting against an unknown Democrat with $8 million. He was able to build up positive name ID. The Republicans engaged each other for 3/4 of the race before even paying attention to him.
Right, and so can this kind of message from the Democrats really win in the long run. Didn't we see this in 2016 where it was all about Donald Trump's a bad guy? Here's what we're going to do for the country. They made this all about Donald Trump in recent days, the last couple of weeks. He was tweeting back, and they did not get to the 50%.
Right. I mean, the issue is here, the Democrats made this a case of vote for Jon Ossoff to make Donald Trump angry. Well, a lot of people did, but not enough to get him to 50% in a Republican district. Was there some things the White House should be worried about? Yes, a little bit. Some of the candidates most closely identified with the president did very bad, but they ran poor races as well. Karen Handel is someone who said she'd work with the president, but she has a long record of holding her own side accountable as well. She's a very strong candidate. And the 6th district is a district that has always treated Karen Handel very well, whether running for governor or for Secretary of State. So Ossoff is unknown and lives outside the district.
Right.
If you don't live in the 6th congressional district, guess what? He couldn't vote for himself, and neither could you.
And Eric, you were not on board with Donald Trump in the 2016 campaign. We all know that. Then you have this Democrat, all this Hollywood money and endorsements pouring in, and Donald Trump stuck his neck in. He had that robocall in the last couple of days in the district, and he had the tweets directly more involved, it seemed, than the RNC or anyone else. You know full well that if the Democrat had reached 50%, this would have been Donald Trump put his neck on the line and lost. Instead, he put his neck on the line and lives another day, doesn't he?
Yeah, very much so. Listen, I can't tell you the number of people who called my radio show in the metro Atlanta area saying, you know, I didn't support Donald Trump last year, but the more these liberals lose their mind, the more I love the guy. And they came home to the Republican Party. The just incessant liberal bashing of Donald Trump and Republicans and attacking everything Republicans have done really helped consolidate people behind the Republicans.
All right, Eric Erickson, I feel like the money is just about to pour in. We've seen nothing yet.
Yes, it is.
Good to see you. Coming
You
up.
too.
Congressman Brian Mast may have lost his legs on the battlefield, but he never lost his will to serve our country. We get an inside look at his everyday life on the Hill next.
For some of those who have done so much to serve our amazing country, the call to duty still beckons after their military career is over.
And that's the case for 102 members of Congress who are military veterans. And they're the subject of our brand new series highlighting their personal stories and what they do now in office.
First up, we've got Congressman Brian Mast from Florida, and Abby Huntsman went down to Washington to learn more about Mr.
And
Ned.
what an incredible story he has. So Congressman Mast, he's a freshman in the 115th Congress after winning 53% of the vote in his home district, but he started his career, many people don't realize this, in the U.S. Army as an EOD bomb technician in Afghanistan, helping detect and disarm IEDs to protect their fellow soldiers. Well, Brian, he ended up losing 2 of his limbs in an explosion. But then he made the decision to continue to serve his country in Congress, all while he was recovering in Walter Reed Hospital. Here's his story.
I lost 2 legs and a finger disposing bombs, trying to work for my country and my brothers in service. And that was completely palatable. I have 0 regrets about it.
In that moment, for people that don't know, take us back.
We came to a spot on the battlefield that there was the only place that pretty much we could get across the river. And I told my guys, if I can figure that out, any enemy can figure that out. They probably mined the area. They probably put some bombs around there. So one of these snipers that I was working with, he fell in this waterway. I went to step back and help pull our guy out of the water. And when I did that, wherever it is that I turned and I moved to, I found one of those devices exploded underneath my feet. I remember very vividly it tumbling me through the air, probably landed 5 or 10 feet from where I'd been. I can remember, you know, being engulfed in this cloud of dust, and I can remember, you know, hearing in my radio device my men talking about me and, you know, calling up my call sign, EOD is hit, EOD is down. They were talking about me. They loaded me onto a helicopter, and they gave me a salute, the men that were carrying my stretcher. And they said, you're going to be okay.
From that moment, take us to the moment waking up here in D.C.
There was somebody that I had gone to school with. His name was Josh. I didn't know he was in the military. He found me and recognized me as Brian Mast. Reached back home and got in contact with my wife, Brianna. Had her email a picture of her and what was our 6-month-old son at the time. And he taped it to that flat part at the end of the hospital gurney where my feet were supposed to be sticking up. And they weren't. And he did it so that the first thing that I would ever see would be my wife and my son looking back at me.
What's going through your mind in that moment? Because you look down and you realize you don't have legs.
It was tough. You know, one of the things that was going through my mind was that I'd lost my purpose in life. And it's when my father came to my bedside and he looks at me and he says, Brian, you can't let this keep you down. you got to find a way to pull yourself up, to get out there and get back to work. And that was me on the other side of it, saying, it doesn't matter if I've lost that purpose of my life. I can still go out there. I can still get back to work. I can still regain that purpose, and maybe it'll be on another battlefield. And that's where I am today.
Thanks for coming today. See how the sausage is made in our office.
Yeah, get a sense of a day in your life. Let's get started.
All right, let's do it. I'm headed to committee. I wanted to be on the Committee of Transportation and Infrastructure, work for the water issues that are going on in my local community. It's not the federal government cleaning something up. The federal government is doing the damage. And we're working on a bill that essentially says the federal government shall do no harm.
You even talked to 7th graders as part of your day.
I do.
Skyping.
Now, Skyping with classes is kind of a regular part of my week. It's usually one of the more fun things for me to try to speak to them, answer their questions, get them involved in the process of things that are going on here.
I encourage everybody to go out there and read the Constitution.
All right, so you have Maverick here with you today, your 5-year-old son.
I
He
do.
is having a ball.
He is. He has a good time with Daddy, and I have a good time. You know, children, family, it's the most difficult part about this process. So one of the things that we do is I try to bring the kids up here from time to time when I can.
You want to go on the trolley?
Give me your hand. Let's go. You know, you go into Statuary Hall or some of the other places. You think of the history.
How you doing, sir? You doing all right?
Hey, good to see you.
Good. How are you?
Surviving?
Yeah.
Back in the fight?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I mean, you don't get 2 minutes of downtime.
No, there's never any downtime. It's from one
constant.
to another to another.
Today, you're about to walk on the House floor.
To take real action to put an end to bigotry and violence.
Not every single moment of the day-to-day minutia is fun. You know, a lot of it is very arduous. But when you accomplish something great, when you go out there and do something great for, you know, the people back home, for the country, for freedom, for standing up for the Constitution, for fiscal responsibility, yeah, you've accomplished something good, and it makes every sacrifice worth it.
What a guy.
Beautiful story.
I mean, his
Abby.
perseverance, his life has changed so much, but look what he's doing with it. I mean, it should be an example to all of us. And I think this might just be the beginning of his political career.
It
There's
has
a lot
to be
more
tough,
that came
tough
from.
recovery, but look at what God's doing in his life. I mean, he's here for a big reason. He's serving our country again, and then came back and had 2 more children with his wife. They have 3 total,
And
right?
his kids are adorable. One of his sons, as you saw there, spent the day with us. He's got his hands full. He's got his hands full.
I saw one shot. The
Oh
son
my
had
gosh.
his cell phone in his mouth
Oh, yeah.
walking down the hall.
Oh, yeah.
And if you were watching Fox and Friends a little more than a month ago, it was Brian Mast who got the call. We got the story from Ed.
And because I had met him at a charity event, and he said they're not putting President Trump's portrait up in any of these VA offices around the country. And he just said, look, it's symbolic, but it's important. He's the commander-in-chief. And he went down there to the Palm Beach office and said, put up the photo. And he actually hung an unofficial portrait, and that started this whole thing around the country.
And I asked him about that in this interview. We didn't air that part, but I said, why did you do that? He said, I've learned in the military, when you want to get something done, you just do it yourself.
He did.
You go down there and you put that picture back up. So he said, I did.
It's a great example how on the Hill now that you hit all these roadblocks, but he's somebody who's determined to get things done.
And very well respected on the Hill.
Thank you.
Looks like
Thanks,
it.
you
Thank
guys.
you
Great
so
job.
much. A Fox News alert. Police say the man who shot and killed 3 people in Fresno wanted to kill as many white people as possible. Former D.C. homicide detective.
39-year-old man out in California, Corey Ali Mohammed, shot and killed 3 people in Fresno. He reportedly yelled Allahu Akbar before shooting 3 white men. That's his picture right there. Let's bring in Rod Wheeler, former homicide detective and Fox News contributor. Rod, when we heard that he had shouted Allahu Akbar, we figured it was terrorism, but apparently some of the cops out there are saying maybe it's not.
Well, good morning to you guys. You know, I think it's too quick to say that it was not terrorist-related or terrorism-related. At the very minimum, I can tell you it was terrorist-inspired. Now, why do I say that? Real quickly, you know, I looked at this guy's Facebook post before they took it down, and check this out real quickly. This is one of the posts that he actually written. He said, "We will continue to bring destruction and wrath upon America until we establish a kingdom." Those are the words right out of ISIS playbook. In addition to that, guys, guess what else I learned from this guy's Facebook post? That he considered the Dallas shooter back in July of last year when the 5 officers were killed. He referred to that guy as a hero. So this guy, Corey Muhammad is his name, the guy yesterday, he clearly was inspired by ISIS or one of these other Islamic extremist groups.
Right, so then why would the AP present a story of all the facts in this case and say that he was shouting God is great? He was actually shouting Allah Akbar, which is God is great in Arabic. But why wouldn't they put the exact quote?
Because they need to be politically correct. That's the only reason. And, you know, I've been saying for the longest, the only time we can really defeat ISIS or these Islamic extremists is when we call it out and when we call it what it is. That's exactly what President Trump has said, and that's what he's doing. He's calling it what it is. And that's why when I saw that report from the AP yesterday, I said, you know, they still don't get it. And here at Fox, we've just been reporting exactly what the guy said. This is what the guy said. Not only did he kill those 3 people yesterday, guys, but he also killed another white guy last Thursday there in Fresno. So, you know, we need to call it what it is, you know?
Right. And, Rod, what do you think, coming on top of the Facebook killer? I know a completely different case, but you were just talking about this killer's Facebook post. We're seeing this kind of garbage on social media, and then it leads to murders.
Right, and that's why social media, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram, they need to take accountability and responsibility for keeping this kind of crap off of Facebook and off social media. Look, they have the ability to do it. Facebook has tons of money. They know how to put the algorithms in the system. They just haven't done it yet. Hopefully, by us pushing, we'll continue to get them to do the right thing, guys.
The other scary thing, Ron, is just the fact the randomness of it. Apparently, you know, he shot these 3 people dead randomly, selected them at random, just like the guy on Easter Sunday in Cleveland.
Well, it was sort of random, Steve, and that's an interesting observation. It wasn't necessarily random, though, because if it would have been random, then he would have shot anybody. He specifically targeted white males.
You're right.
So, for one, we know this is a hate crime. It wasn't random. He went after any white male. That's number one. And the guy in Cleveland, now that was random. He just selected anybody. But I even think in that case, he specifically selected the older guy, the old guy that could not fight him back. I think that's what the deal was in Cleveland.
Police say not tied to terrorism, but a hate crime, that this man hated white people.
That's right. Exactly.
All right. Rod Wheeler, thank you very much for coming in early on this Wednesday morning.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Rod. Good to see you. All right, let's hand it over to Abby, who has some headlines for us. Good morning, Abby.
Good morning. Thanks, you guys. We start with this. An illegal immigrant who was once protected under the Dreamer Act is now suing President Trump for being deported. Lawyers say Juan Montez says that he was granted extended DACA status until 2018 and should never have been deported to Mexico in February. But Homeland Security says that his status expired back in 2015, and there's no record of a renewal. And this comes as the Trump administration continues to tighten security at our southern border. Tomorrow, Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly and Attorney General Jeff Sessions, they head down south to get a closer look at what's being done to protect Americans. And remember this, when Congresswoman Maxine Waters called for President Trump's impeachment at the Tax Day rally in Washington?
I will fight every day until he is impeached. Impeach 45. Impeach 45. Impeach 45. Impeach 45.
Well, apparently she does not remember that, because the Democrat is now flipping her own script, telling MSNBC that she never said that.
I have not called for impeachment.
You said I'm going to fight every day until he's impeached. That's what you tweeted.
Yeah, but here's what I've said. Here's what I've said. I've said that we need the information. We need to connect the dots. We need the facts in order to do the impeachment.
Wow. Well, Waters even tweeted yesterday saying the president is a liar. His actions are contemplatable, and I'm going to fight every day until he is impeached. Okay. And there's this morning, United Airlines making a controversial decision saying no one will be fired after a passenger was violently dragged off a plane last week. CEO Oscar Munoz calling it a system failure, taking full responsibility for that incident that sparked worldwide outrage. Dr. David Dow, forced off the flight to make room for employees, lost 2 front teeth and will now need facial reconstruction surgery. It is a story just that will not end. There was a new poll that's out that says more people are willing to take a flight double as long with another airline, just if they can avoid taking United.
What does it take to get fired at United? Holy cow.
God, I guess Maxine Waters didn't know it was on tape.
Guess not.
No, I know.
All right.
That's funny.
Meanwhile, the mainstream media loves writing about how President Trump is already losing his base. So why are they in such a hurry to call the 2020 election? Amy Holmes is here.